Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where in the country or where in the world you're logging in from and watching this. Very excited to present to you Working with Buyers Made Easy Peasy. My name is Brian Moses. I've been in the business for about 30 years, and it pains me to see agents struggle with buyers being used, having buyers ghost you, disappear on you. And, we're going to identify some challenges and some common problems that you'll probably relate with, because people don't need a solution until they know that they have a problem. And some of us aren't even aware that we have some problems in the working with buyers process. So it's a privilege to be with you today. So let's begin. And I think it's important to give you a little bit of background. Many of you may know me, but some of you don't. Today, I'm a coach and trainer, but I was actively in production, and it's worth mentioning. And I struggled early on, which I'll share with you. I'm not one of these people that purport that life is, all peaches and cream and roses. But I managed to change the way that I was working with buyers and sellers, and I ended up getting up to over 400 sales a year, top 10 in the world for a major real estate franchise. Twice I was number 2, over $3 million a year in commission income. And if you'll apply the strategies, principles, and processes to today's training, you'll enjoy working with buyers once again. We're going to make it easy, and it's going to be easy because we're going to have a well-defined process. So I got into the business in 1990. Right after college graduation, turned down some great job offers because I thought all real estate agents made lots of money. And I joined, you may recognize this brand, Century 21. I was told, hey, you've got a great personality, you're going to do great, take some opportunity time, and you'll crush it. But I got to tell you, honestly, I struggled for the first 5 years. Even though I was Rookie of the Year and received some awards, the standards in our industry were so low that I wasn't making any money, and I was getting awards for being poor or for being broke. So I hit some certain milestones, more sales than any other rookie, but I made all the mistakes. And the mistake that I want you to recognize is probably one of the biggest mistakes is to try and win based on our personality. That's the price of admission today, gang. We need to be hardworking. We need to be ambitious. We need to be personable. We need to be understanding. We need to be compassionate. All of those traits and characteristics are great, but they're not going to help you reach your goals. Because the general public, this is what they see when they see a real estate agent from any company, any brand. They don't know the difference. They don't understand the differences that are available to them by working with you at eXp Real Estate versus working with any one of their competitors, Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, Remax. To the general public, you are just another real estate agent. And, it's really critical that we differentiate ourselves from the masses, and I'm going to help you do that today. We have the opportunity to earn a lot of money on a real estate transaction, and it's really important that we articulate our value and why it's worthwhile for a consumer to work with us, and potentially a buyer may have to write a check for your services, as we're all aware of. So we need to differentiate ourselves, and doing what everybody else does is going to only get you what everybody else gets. And generally, that's pretty mediocre results. I think the industry average is about 4 or 5 sales a year for a full-time agent. And that's not really outstanding. You're capable of so much more, but to get more, you need to differentiate yourself. So we're not going to do the traditional things that other agents did. I hope that you enjoy today's training, and we'll do other trainings on quality lead generation. But just to give you a little teaser of the future of training with me, I don't do working my sphere, cold calling, door knocking, personal promotion, just listed, just sold campaigns. And although those will work, they'll get you incremental results, right? Anything will work if you do a lot of it. You can get lucky, but we want to build a business that is duplicatable and predictable, and one that we can teach if we wish to create a team or scale and build a process. But promoting yourself isn't the answer. I know because I did it. I spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, money I didn't have, put it on credit cards, took out business loans so that I could build my business. And I only got incremental results. It got so bad, in fact, that 5 years into the business, I couldn't pay my bills. I was deep in debt. The Internal Revenue Service, do you know that we're all related? They sent me letters. Uncle Sam, we both have the same uncle, said, Brian, we haven't heard from you in a number of years. You haven't paid your taxes. And I didn't have the money to pay my taxes, so I threw these pieces of mail out and figured I'd pay them when I had the money. But it got bad pretty quickly. They sent the letters more frequently via certified mail. I didn't respond to those, so they reached out to my broker and they levied my commissions. And my broker said, Brian, every dollar that you earn in commissions, we have to send to the IRS. We're obligated by law. They've liened your income. And I was in a world of hurt. And the little bit of money that I did have in the bank, I was writing checks, trying to get current, and my checks were bouncing. So I called my bank, First New Hampshire Bank, and I said, what's going on? The IRS levied my bank account. So now, can you imagine? I've got no money in my bank account, and every dollar I earn is being sent to the IRS. I was in a bad, bad place. So I borrowed some money from some friends, put my tail between my legs, wrote them post-dated checks with interest built onto it, and said, I'm going to turn this around. Now, let's enter working with buyers. So it's 1994, 1995. I'm busting my tail, and I meet this lovely lady. And I think you'll all relate with this problem that we all have in this industry. And this lovely lady's name is Janet. And I said, what would you like for your birthday? And she said, I'd like you. I know you don't have a lot of money. I know you don't have a lot of time. I would just like you for the weekend to come to Cape Cod and visit my parents and spend the weekend with us. Can you do that? And I said, no problem. Let's do it. I'm thrilled because I'm not going to have to pay for anything. Her parents are going to take me out to dinner, and life is good. So her birthday is in April. So I block off my calendar. I'm going to go to Cape Cod with my girlfriend and her family on April 6th. And you guys know what happens? I get a call from a relo buyer, a surgeon, the head of orthopedic surgery at my local hospital, who accepted a job, sold his house in Denver, Colorado, and is being relocated to my market in Nashua, New Hampshire. And his wife is also a surgeon. So I've got two doctors moving to our area. My average sales price at the time is $125,000, and they're looking at $800,000 properties. Wow, I hit the jackpot. Except, guess what weekend they're coming in? The weekend of April 6th. So in the financial situation that I'm in, I go to my girlfriend and I say, hey, is there any way we could reschedule? How many of you can relate to my dilemma? That buyers are controlling our lives. So I wasn't going to let this buyer get away. My girlfriend, who's now my wife of 30 years, was very understanding and said, no problem, we can't reschedule. You work with the buyers, I'll go to the Cape and we'll do something another time. I said, I really appreciate your understanding. So folks, tell me if you can relate with this. Here's the problem. I send those buyers from Denver to my lender, and my lender approves them for an $800,000 loan. And frankly, my lender says they can buy anything they want. They could pay cash if they wanted to, but they're going to get financing and they're all set. 800 credit score, they're good to go. I go, fantastic. How many of us have done that? We talk to a buyer on the phone and we add value and we deliver them connections and I send them to my lender. And we think we're doing something good, don't we? Well, watch what happens. I then send the buyer a bunch of properties because they wanted to look in Amherst, New Hampshire. They knew where they wanted to be. They knew what their criteria was. So I set them up and I send them a bunch of properties. I'm adding value. I even go one step further and I say, you know what? These people are not going to get away from me. I'm going to pick them up at the airport. So I make arrangements, get their flight information, tell them I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to bring them to their hotel. And I'm ecstatic because this is like 7 sales in a weekend for me. So here comes the fateful weekend. My wife goes to the Cape. I go to the airport to pick them up, and they're not there. There's no message, there's no email, there's no communication. I'm calling, I'm not getting any answer. I call my lender and I say, Tom, have you heard from the Johnsons from Denver? And he says, Brian, you're all set. They're all approved. They're in underwriting. I said, they're in underwriting? What are you talking about? He says, yeah, you're good to go. They're clear to close. I said, Tom, what do you mean? He goes, wait a minute. You didn't sell them that house? I said, what house? I said, please don't tell me they bought 6 Mosswood Circle, the listing that I emailed them. They go, how'd you know? That's the house. So folks, here's 2 valuable lessons. We've all done this, right? We can learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. I sent them to a lender because that's something that we have to do, right? I also sent them a bunch of listings. But please write this down if you're taking notes. What you do matters, how you do it matters, and when you do it matters. And I was doing the right thing at the wrong time. See, by sending them to my lender, I actually increased their motivation. By sending them listings, I actually increased their motivation. These folks, I later learned, came out a few days earlier and just decided to take a drive by 6 Mosswood Circle. And while they were driving by, it was more convenient for them to call the agent on the for sale sign than to call me, the nice guy who helped them with financing and who introduced them to the property. How many of you can relate? So my wife's on the Cape. I had a choice. I could be PO'd, upset, angry, mad, blame them, those jerks, or I could recognize the common denominator in this problem, me. So I decided that enough was enough. And I was no longer going to sell real estate the way traditional agents sell real estate, being a freaking tour guide and just opening doors, showing homes, and hoping that I'd generate some sales. My wife was 2 hours away. I decided to whiteboard in my office the buyer process of how I wanted it to work. What are the goals that you want to have happen when you work with a buyer? How many of you would like loyalty, would like respect, would like appreciation? So I made a list of all the things that I want to happen, and the things I don't want them to happen. I don't want them calling me 7 days a week, nights, weekends, and holidays. I want to set boundaries. So I made a list of the perfect buyer process where I'm in control. And I mapped out everything that happened in a buyer transaction. And what happened was, when I changed the way that I looked at the business, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You see, if you look at this image, you'll see one of 2 images generally. You'll either see an old, ugly, haggard woman, or you'll see a young, beautiful woman looking to the right, looking away. Now, as I show you this, some of you only see the old woman or you only see the young woman. And it's really hard for our brain to see the second image once we get locked in and fixated on the first image. See, we've been born into real estate, and all we've seen is the way the average agent sells homes, because that's 90% of the business. Very few people do 100, 200, 300, 400 deals a year or run teams. Many of you watching are making a good living, but if I can get you to change the way you look at the buyer process will change, and it'll be enjoyable. It'll be fun again. You'll be in control. Buyers will love you, appreciate you, respect you. They'll refer you. Not only will they refer you, they'll be raving fans, and they'll go out of their way to tell people about how great you are and how much value you've added. And I'm going to show you in a short little training session today some of the things you can say and do differently in the order and sequence in which you do them that'll change everything, so that you stand out. You become the dominant agent in your market. So the first thing we need to understand is that we need to be motivated to change, and we need to have skills. Now, they're both critically important, and one is infinitely more important than the other. And this is really important for us to understand, because most of us, like me, think that motivation is more important than skill. But I'm going to tell you, I was motivated my first 5 years in the business. I worked 7 days a week. I worked nights, weekends, and holidays. So why was I struggling? Why was I broke? I lacked the skills of a defined, predictable, duplicatable process. I lacked the skills of knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it. I'm going to teach you that today, and want you to really understand. But if you're still doubtful, let me just prove my point to you. Skill trumps motivation in every scenario. If we were barricaded in our room and you couldn't get out, and you had 8 minutes to deactivate this bomb, how many of you are motivated to live, to see another day, to see your family, but you can't get out? So you're motivated to live. Which wire do you pull? The red one, the green one, the yellow one, the blue one? In this example, would we agree that skill, knowing what wire to pull, is more important than actually being motivated? Because if I know what wire to pull, I can save myself. What about skydiving? That might not interest most of you. I've done it. That'll make your cheeks pucker up, I promise you. You'll activate the little demons in your head, that little conversation that says, what are you doing? Are you nuts? But I was talking to my tandem and I said, how long have you been doing this? Can you imagine if he said, I just started? That might make you change your mind about going skydiving. Fortunately for him, he had done it many, many years, thousands of jumps, and he goes, I've got you. He even, said, hey, we've got an altimeter that you're going to watch. It's going to go very rapidly. We're going to fall at 120 feet per second, Brian. And when we get to 8,000 feet, you're going to reach over, you're going to reach back, and you're going to pull this little golf ball on a string, and that's going to launch your parachute. So we're flying. I'm enjoying it. Life is good because the fear is out of me. And once you're out of the plane, you're fine and you feel like you're flying. And I'm watching the altimeter go, and I feel tap, 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 tap on my shoulder, and then it's more aggressive. We were well below 8,000 feet, and I just didn't have the skill, the practice. So he pulled the chute for me. Aren't I grateful that I had somebody skilled with me, because I didn't have the skill? Stock market, could we invest money in the stock market and double our investment in 24 hours? Sure, that's possible. In fact, at the end of today, go and look at recent trades, look at the trades throughout the day, and you can find a stock that started at $4 a share and sold at $8 a share. And had you known that, you could have doubled your money. But why don't people do that? Because we don't have the skills to do that. So even though we might be motivated, it's not enough. Flying a plane, same thing. If I gave you the keys to a 747, what good is it if you don't have the skills to fly it? Hey, you're motivated, you got a multi-million-dollar aircraft and you can go anywhere in the world, but you're not going to do anything without the skills. Your car breaks down, you got to get from point A to point B. Here's my point. After doing this for a lot of years, I've learned that some things work, some things don't work, and some things work way better than others. And I've documented those things so that I could scale my business, and just so you know, I went from dead broke to 108 sales the following year with the changes that I'm going to tell you about working with buyers. I went from 40 deals, working 7 nights a week, weekends, holidays, on call 24/7, no life. A buyer wanted to see a house, off I went, to setting some boundaries, creating some value propositions, creating some parameters, iterating on it to 100 deals in 1 year, working less hours, almost 2.5 times the results with less effort. So I'm excited to share with you that you can make more money working less than you currently do. So let's dive in and talk about how do you differentiate yourself with buyers. Today, with the recent buyer agency changes in our industry, you may have to collect your compensation directly from the buyer if the seller isn't offering compensation. My question is, can you articulate enough value so that a buyer says, I'm happy to pay you a percentage of the sales price or a dollar amount that's substantial, that's tens of thousands of dollars in most cases? And my bet is the answer is no for most of us. Or you're here today because there's an opportunity for you to get better, to improve your skills. So I'm excited to share that with you. So what I did in that office on that fateful weekend is I mapped out everything I did, everything I facilitated. Not just what I did, but everything I facilitated. See, don't we facilitate introduction to a lender? Don't we facilitate title search and homeowners insurance? And don't we facilitate recommending contractors and plumbers and electricians to our clients? See, we add a lot of value, and intrinsically, we know that we add value, but we can't just tell a buyer that, hey, I'm going to do a great job for you. I'm going to represent your best interests. We have to substantiate that value. And I'm going to show you that if you have a buyer agreement with a buyer and the seller will not offer compensation, and you need to collect $10, $15, $20, $30,000 per your fee agreement, you're going to want to have a process where the buyer says, I am happy to write a check. So I created a process. I identified everything that we did, and then it's like connecting the dots. If you can see this here, we know that a child can draw in the lines, right? Because a child knows to start at 1, go to 2, go to 3, 4, 5. And when it's finished, this image looks like Batman. What I want to impress upon you today is that when you connect the dots of my buyer process, it ends up with respected clients that respect you, that are loyal to you, that refer people to you, that are a raving fan for you, and that do not begrudge you for earning a living. They're actually grateful. Let me ask you this. How many of you, if I gave you $100 bill and said, you can have the $100 bill, but you've got to give me $50 in return? How many of you would do that? It's not a trick question. You'd be up $50. You should all be willing to do that. Well, here's the question. If a buyer has to write you a check, your company, EXP, for $30,000, a percentage of the sales price, 20,000, 50,000, 10,000, significant number, right? If a buyer has to write you a check, who thinks that it would be helpful to articulate more than that in value? So if their fee is $20,000, would it benefit you to show them more than $40,000, $60,000, $100,000 in savings by working with you? So that's what we're going to lay out. So I created this process. You're welcome to take a screenshot of it. I'm not sure if we can put this attached to the training, but I'll give you, you can always reach out to me. Let me know that you saw this training at EXP University and you'd like the buyer process, and I'll be happy to email it to you. Okay, what's beautiful about this company is this company gets that we win by adding value. This training doesn't cost you any money. I'm not looking for any money. I'm not looking for anything in return. We want to add value to you. So if you'd like this process, you can just message me in Workplace, and I'll be happy to send it to you. But we created a process. Now notice what I did is, when do I send the buyer to the lender? It's not when I speak to them. It's after the benefits presentation. When do I send the buyer listings? It's after the benefits presentation. So I actually have a script or an offer, a compelling offer, which we'll do some other trainings on it, on how to get a buyer to want to meet with you and see value in meeting with you before going out and looking at property. That's a great skill. So we can teach you how to set the appointment, how to make a compelling offer. And basically, I understand that all buyers want a good deal. They want inventory. Nobody looks at one house and buys one house. Rarely does that happen. It could happen, but it's not commonplace. So when I talk with a buyer on the phone, I go, are you only interested in that house? Are you only looking in Nashua, New Hampshire? Are you open to some of the surrounding communities? If I could find you a great, incredible, amazing deal that matched your criteria and it was in a neighborhood that was to your liking, would it be okay to share it with you? Yeah, that'd be great. Well, I have a buyer advantage program, and we can get you instant real-time access to all the great deals that match your criteria. It's like a VIP pass. It actually gets you inventory before it goes to Zillow and Realtor.com. That's our MLS. Isn't that what we have? We have our MLS. So I created a packaged offer that offers them the MLS without calling it the MLS, so that they go, yeah, that's a benefit. I would like that. I would like to know about homes that meet my criteria as soon as they become available. Well, in order to do that, let's get together so we can get you set up. So I teach and coach and train on making that compelling offer. And I'll show you what happens. Now the buyer comes in for the appointment. I qualify the appointment. So I've generated the lead, I have the appointment. Now I want to acquire the client. That's the third step in the process. So I'm going to show you how to grow your business by changing a few things that you currently do. And instead of just, having flatline growth, we have people that have been in the business for 20 years and they sell the same number of homes every single year, make the same amount of income every year. I don't know about you, but that doesn't work for me. I want to develop and grow. Now, I don't even want to grow linearly, which is incremental gains, where you go maybe from 10 deals to 12 to 15 to 18 to 30 to 35. That's good, but I want to show you how you can have geometric growth. Because everything works, but some things work way better than others. So gang, it's time for us to get paid. It's time for us to be appreciated. It's time for us to be valued. And I'm going to share with you that process. In order for this to work, though, you have to, A, believe that it's possible, right? Either agents in the United States, in Canada, in other parts of the world that are doing what I'm doing. And the answer is yes. And those are the agents that are getting the dominant share of market. They're crushing it because they have a process. So I don't think we dream big enough. And I'd like you to really dream big and think about what's possible for you. What would you like your business to be like? How much income would you like to make? And then we'll create a plan to do it that attracts that business. And we'll do some things on lead generation. Now, I show this slide because it's my favorite restaurant in the world. It's called Skull's Rainbow Room. It's in Nashville, Tennessee. And there's a lot of things that make this restaurant unique and different. But I'm happy to go there. And I promise you it's more expensive than most restaurants that I dine on a regular basis at. Right? This is a treat. This is special. It costs more money, but I'm happy to go there and happy to pull out my credit card and pay the price tag of the exuberant experience because they have an experience or a menu that offers value. And if I don't want steak, they have other offerings. And if I don't want chicken or fish, they have other offerings. Here's my question for you. What do you offer a buyer? What are you offering a buyer so that they want to write you a check, write our company a check because EXP is our broker, and then the broker pays us. But what are your offers? What are your benefits? I'm going to give you several today because the more benefits you have, the more money you'll make. So I'd like you to make a homework assignment to create some compelling, irresistible offers. EXP provides you with tons of beneficial offers and programs that you can offer buyers and sellers, and you should incorporate those into your buyer and seller presentation. But we can go far beyond that because we do a lot more. So let me show you what my office started to look like when I made this decision. And I wish that I knew that I'd be doing this training today because I would have taken a picture of my waiting room, my lobby at my office that was packed on Tuesdays and Thursdays with buyers waiting to see me for the buyer presentation, for the consultation, for the intake, for the get to know you, Mr. Buyer, and what are you looking for and what's important to you. And let me show you how I'm going to help you minimize expenses in the process. And we had a waiting room every Tuesday and Thursday that was packed because I would book my appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, in the rare instance that a buyer can't meet with me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, flexibility is the key to success. I could meet with them on a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday, a Saturday. But generally, I create momentum and efficiency. And most buyers aren't looking to buy a house today when you talk to them. So I can book the appointment for Tuesday or Thursday. So I created this waiting room and buyers would wait to meet with me because my offer on the telephone was so compelling, they saw value in coming to my office. So I'd call them in one by one and we would do the buyer consultation. Now, many of you are doing this in some capacity, I hope, because we're required by law to disclose agency, and buyers need to work with a buyer agent, and they need to know what you're going to do for them, and they need to know also how you're going to get paid. So I'm going to cover this in the remaining time that we have together. But as I said before, if I just went to this, you'd be like, yeah, Brian, this sounds good. But if you didn't know my pain, if you didn't know the problems that we have currently with our broken process that we follow, you wouldn't need a solution. So hopefully you all are excited right now and you're like, Brian's about to give me a solution that's going to solve a lot of my problems. You betcha. And that decision, folks, turned me into one of the most successful real estate agents in the world. See, it wasn't that I was born a great salesperson. I created a process And the process is loaded with benefits. And I have a belief that the more value you articulate, the more business you'll get, the more money you'll make. So it's been tried, tested, and proven. And then I wanted to coach and share it with other agents. You see, one of the unique things, well, there's no shortage of coaches, just like there's no shortage of real estate agents. And we're all well-intended. I'm well-intended. I want to add value to your life. But here's the difference. Many coaches have never sold real estate at a high level. You know, at other companies, they have sales managers, and they're too well-intended. But my sales manager at Century 21 never sold real estate at a high level. So what did she tell me to do? She told me to create a farm. She told me to door knock. She told me to cold call. And I got incremental results from those strategies. But when I took matters into my own hands, I created a process. I built a team. I scaled the team from 100 deals all by myself to 200 deals, 300 deals, 400 deals annually with a small team. So that's duplicatable. And then I started coaching agents, and today I coach some of the best agents and teams in North America. And a couple of years ago, I was named one of the 125 most influential people in our industry. But it's not because I'm special. It's because I did it and I experienced it. So the buyer meeting, let's talk about the buyer presentation. I start with vesting. So vesting, what vesting means is the more involved a consumer is with you, the more likely they are to work with you. So most of you do this, and you know, as a coach or trainer, somebody who sticks a microscope up the backside of your business and looks at what you do and how you could do things better and how we could optimize and maximize efficiencies. Most of you do a pretty decent job at this. Okay, there's not a lot of skill in going, hey, what are you looking for? Tell me a little bit about your dream home. What are your needs? What are your wants? So I take this in, but there is a couple of things that I do that are very specific and unique. And when I ask them what they're looking for, I go really wide, not to establish a search criteria that's going to go in and make nothing available, right? The more you put in a buyer's search, the fewer homes show up. But in the vesting, I'm going wide. So I'm going to say, you know, tell me a little bit about the house that you're looking for. And I get 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a garage. And I say, anything else? Well, we want to be in Nashua, Hudson. Okay, anything else? And they go, nope, that's pretty much it. This is where I want you to go wide. This is where I want you to demonstrate your expertise, that there's a lot more involved in finding the right home at the best price than just bedrooms and baths. So I want you to say things like, what about heating system? You didn't mention the type of heat. Do you care if it's forced hot water, forced hot air? Do you care if it's propane, natural gas, electric heat, oil? Does any of that matter to you? Now, even if they say, no, it doesn't matter, what you're doing through actions, your actions speak louder than your words, is you're demonstrating at a subconscious level things that they have not thought of. And when they haven't thought of it, your expertise immediately starts to rise in their conscious mind. Then I want you to say, you didn't mention age or condition. Is that important to you? If the property needs, $100,000 in renovations, is that okay? Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Okay, so have you given any thought to budget after you purchase the property? Well, we need something that's inhabitable. We don't really want to do a lot of renovation. Maybe something that's less than 20 years old. Okay, great. Should I make a note of that? So I want you to go wider, gang. I want you to go wider. And what if you mentioned Nashua and Hudson and Litchfield, but what if we found you the right home in Merrimack, Milford, Mount Vernon? Would that be okay or would that not be okay? See, I want you to go a little bit wider. This doesn't take a long time. I'm training you right now. So I'm spending more time than it would actually take in real time. But this is just a couple of minutes. So now once I have a really good understanding of what's important to them, they're vested, they're far more likely to work with me. I then say, and I think this will be helpful because many of us have never seen another highly successful top agent do a buyer presentation, have we? Right? We've been to seminars and we get little nuggets, but we've never actually witnessed what they say, how they say it, or when they say it, all of which matters critically. So I say, after I've got their info, I repeat it back to them and I go, do I have a good understanding of what you're looking for? They go, yeah, you've got a great understanding. This is awesome. Wonderful. John and Mary, are you guys familiar with buyer agency? Now, I don't flinch when they go, oh, no, we're not signing anything. I simply say, I'm not asking you to sign anything. I'm asking you if you're familiar with buyer agency. Do you know how our industry is working today? That there's two sides of a transaction. So I give them an overview of that and a description. You know, there's the listing side of a transaction and the buyer side of a transaction. And each party needs representation. It's required by law today. So whether you work with me or you work with someone else, it's important that you understand this. By the way, gang, we're obligated, at least in the United States, to disclose this. Now, just because you can work with any buyer agent doesn't mean we're all created equal. It takes, in New Hampshire, for example, 40 hours to get your real estate license. That's it. In a week, you could go through all the modules, pass a test, get a 70, and get your real estate license. Does that mean you're qualified to represent a consumer without help, without direction? So, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I've been doing this for a while. We have a proven, repeatable process to help you, and you may want to write this down, find the right home at the best price and minimize your expenses in the process. Find the right home at the best price and minimize your expenses in the process. Said differently, gang, there's a lot more to a real estate transaction than just finding the home and owning it. There's a lot more costs involved. So I'm going to let you take a screenshot of this, or I'll send it if you ask for it. If you message me, I'll be happy to send it. Or if I can attach it to this slide deck, I'll find out later. Look and see if there's attachments. If there's not, just message me. But this is one of my coaching clients in Arizona who took a one-on-one coaching call and transcribed it and said, wow, what you said is so valuable. So I'm going to spend a good amount of time on this. Now, remember I said earlier, I wrote down everything that I facilitate in a real estate transaction, and I take credit for everything I facilitate. So when a buyer works with you, how many of you have a lender that you recommend? Do you take credit for that? What do you mean by that, Brian? Well, here's how it sounds. I say to the buyer, all real estate agents aren't created equal. I focus on helping you minimize your expenses in a real estate transaction. Is that important to you? Do you think I've got their attention? Yeah, that's important to me. So how do you do that? I have to articulate how I do it. Well, Mr. Buyer, one of the things that we do is we work with approved and vetted affiliates. EXP is an international brokerage. We have approved and vetted affiliates. I have approved and vetted affiliates that I trust that do a great job. Now, you mentioned you were approved with ABC loans on the internet, but I work with a mortgage company that specializes in mortgage financing. And many times, Mr. Buyer, their rates, their interest rates, are more competitive than many institutions. And did you know that even 1/8% over 30 years can represent hundreds of thousands of dollars in unnecessary interest payments? Are you open to those type of savings, or are you locked in and obligated with ABC? So the first thing I'm going to hit them with is something that is extremely valuable. I think we all would agree that the lender that we recommend to the buyer is a valuable recommendation. Now I take credit for it. I also say that our lender, their closing costs, oftentimes compared to many institutions, is significantly lower, to the tune of $3,000 to $5,000 in additional out-of-pocket savings. Now, right there, I'm getting rapport, because when people like you, trust you, and respect you, rapport goes up, the likelihood of them using you goes up. And all I'm doing is telling them what I do. I'm not directing them to the lender anymore. I'm not working for free anymore. If you want everything I do, they're going to need to execute a buyer agency agreement, but that's coming down the road. Let's talk about a couple of other things that will benefit you. We will offer you a home warranty on any property that you buy. We will offer it to you. Notice I didn't say I will pay for it, although you could. That could be part of your value proposition, but you don't have to. I'm going to offer you a home warranty. And are you familiar with how a home warranty works? Yeah, it's an insurance policy against many of the mechanical components of a home. And for a small investment, you can protect some of those big things that could go wrong. Those mechanical systems. If the furnace craps the bed, how much is it to replace a furnace? $15,000, $18,000. What about a water heater? $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. What about an air conditioning condenser? Several thousands of dollars. So, Mr. Buyer, are you starting to see that there's a lot more to finding the right home, minimizing your expenses, and getting the best deal than just picking a house and going to look at it on Zillow or Realtor.com? Aren't you glad you came in here today? Now, gang, I will give you a few more, but after I've done 2 or 3 benefits, I own this buyer. They could have a relative, and many times it's happened, they have a friend, a cousin, a relative that is a real estate agent that said, don't sign anything. But they're going to sign because they want my vetted and approved affiliates. They want to know about the home warranty. They want to save money in their closing costs. How about this one? How many of you have a contractor's list if a buyer needs a roofer, somebody to do siding, somebody to do landscaping? How many of you have those? I have that. We all do. And generally, we just give it out for free. Well, I made that part of my value proposition under general contractors. Hey, we've put together a list of approved and vetted contractors that are dependable, trustworthy, competitive with their pricing. You're free to use whoever you want, but it'll protect you from getting robbed. How many of you have ever heard of a horror story with a contractor where the contractor requires a 50% deposit and then disappears and never comes back? So that won't happen because I've got your back. I'm looking over your shoulder. I've done this for a while. So we have a list. I call this my cheat sheet of different things, even down to the day that you look at property. Do you know, Mr. Buyer, that the days of the week that you view property could have an impact on price? If getting a good deal is important to you, when would you like to look at properties? Well, I'd like to look at properties, Brian, on the weekends. Great. I'm happy to show you properties on the weekends. But when do you think everybody else looks at property? On the weekends. So my question is, do you want to compete with everyone else, or are you open to looking during the week so that we can get your offer presented, at least try to get your offer presented before you're in competition with 5 or 10 other buyers? You know, I could show you case after case last year of homes that sold for 20, 50, $100,000 over asking price because there was so much demand on a home that they created a bidding war. If we can avoid a bidding war, would that be valuable? So could we look at property maybe on Wednesday or Thursday? Well, I have to work. I understand. Do you make $20,000 a day working? Because if you have to overbid on a property to secure it, you might have to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 or more to secure it. Hey, good point. Maybe I'll take a vacation day or a personal day. So gang, hopefully in the time that we're spending here together, you can see that I'm very purposeful, very intentional, and I have lots of benefits. Once I offer the benefits, I ask these 3 questions. Are you starting to see that there's a lot more to finding the right house at the best price and minimizing all the expenses associated with a real estate purchase than just working with any old agent? Yep. Are you recognizing that the agent you work with matters? Yep. 3rd question. Are you comfortable with my skills and qualifications, or would you like to hear more? No, this has been great, Brian. Really, really great. Great. Can I tell you how we get paid? So, you know, I have other benefits of 21 bullet points on how to get your offer accepted if we're in a multiple offer strategy so that we don't have to overpay. What are other things that we can do? I have other resources that I can offer the buyer that will save them pain, suffering, time, money, aggravation. But let me tell you how we get paid. We get paid in one of 3 ways. Generally, we get paid from the proceeds of sale, which means you buy a $300,000 house, a $3 million house, and our fee of X% comes out of that purchase price. We can also get paid directly from you. So if we're in a competitive situation and it would be beneficial for you to pay our company that percentage, we can do that too. And the 3rd way is we can do a combination of both. We can collect some money from the proceeds of sale and some money you can bring to the closing. But that's how we get paid. Any questions? And they're like, nope, that's good. See, value unarticulated is unappreciated. We must articulate our value, and better yet, we need to monetize our value. So then I say, great, if you don't have any questions, we have an agreement. Agreements in the United States and in Canada need to be in writing. And, you know, in most of the countries that we operate in, there might be some differences. But for buyer agency, and for those of you watching this, probably in all cases, we have an agreement, and this agreement is a formal statement of what I just covered with you. We're going to represent you. We're going to use all of our tools, resources, and strategies to help you find the right house at the best price and minimize your expenses in the process. And our fee is X. I just need your signature on this. And that's it. It's that easy, gang. And, you know, the secret sauce in me and my team becoming the number 2 agent, not once, but twice in the world for buyer-controlled sales was this exact process. And I'm much better today than I was back then. So I hope that you got some great ideas and some great value out of this. I hope that you'll follow me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn and reach out to me. Shoot me a message. I'd love to hear from you. What did you learn from this? How was this for you? How was this different from other trainings that you've experienced? You know, give me the good, the bad, the ugly. Let me know what I could do better. Let me know how I can serve you. But I want to thank you for your time today. Make sure you follow me on social and be sure to watch for Brian Moses' additional training in EXP University. We're going to do some lead generation. We're going to do some over-the-phone conversion. We're going to do common objection handling. We're going to do listing presentations. I'm really, really excited to share with you. So thanks again for watching. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day, everybody.